On your Wednesday episode of Locked On Raptors, it's a mailbag show, and it's not your typical mailbag for this time of year where we're digging into fake trade scenarios. There's some of that, particularly as it relates to OG Anunoby, but for the most part, today's a palate cleanser. We've got fun, we've got weird, we've got off-the-wall questions from you, the freaks who put them all in. Thank you so much for being here. Katie Heindl's along as well. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to episode number 1327 of Locked On Raptors for Wednesday, January the 25th. I'm your host, Sean Woodley. Been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 9 seasons on various platforms. You can find all of my work over on Twitter at WoodleySean. You can follow, subscribe to, rate, and review the podcast for free on your favorite podcast apps. And of course, we are on YouTube. Please go hit the big red subscribe button. You can't miss it if you go and look up the Locked On Raptors YouTube channel. It's very much appreciated as well. When you support the show, helps with the algorithm and becoming more visible and all that good stuff, while also stroking my ego. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. All right, on today's show, I put out a call for some mailbag questions that might just sort of change the tone and tenor of the conversation about the Raptors, because look, it's been grim, it's been big picture, it's been trade heavy over the last little while, and will promise to be so for the next couple of weeks. But I just kind of needed like a fresh set of questions, a fresh set of topics for the day, and you, the listeners, have very much delivered with that and come through on my request. And here to dig into some really fun mailbag questions, we'll get to some trade-related stuff at the end of the show as well, so stick around for that. It is, of course, Katie Heindl, who I currently have on the screen as Vivek Jacob, and I feel very badly about this. There, I fixed it. Yeah!
Thank you.
Katie Heindl, how are you?
I'm good. The greatest freak of them all. I'm good. I'm hanging in.
I'm glad to hear it. It's snowing. It's here in Hamilton. It's been snowing for like a couple hours now. There's some good accumulation. It's very wintry. It's got me in better spirits because outside isn't just a palette of gray. There's some whites mixed in now too, which is nice. Brightens up the whole day. Either way, Katie, speaking of brightening up the whole day, let's get to some mailbag questions from some lovely listeners who, again, obliged my request for just something different to talk about. The first question here comes from our pal, Chelsea Light, over at Raptors HQ. If you could put together the perfect basketball player using 3 different qualities from 3 different Raptors, past or present, let's say present just for simplicity's sake, what would you make? Whom would you make, I suppose, is maybe the proper way to frame this question. Who's your Toronto Raptors Voltron player, Katie? 3 different skills put into one. What you got?
Yeah, this is less Frankenstein-y. Right?
Yeah.
But
it's more sort of a superhuman amalgamation of things.
Right.
Like it fell into some sort of nuclear reactor. All 3 players did, and were blended into one person. Ugh.
I was thinking about this, and I was like, should I do for some reason, I was like, John Salmons. I was going to do a real, like a freak one and then a regular one, but I think I'll just do a regular one, which might be freakish to some. I think
what you got?
I'd probably have the beautiful defensive mind of Marc Gasol.
Oh, so you're going past players. All right. We're opening up the box. I thought present was more simple because my brain just only
present.
works in the present.
No, let's do present.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Cool.
Present. I would have mine are just going to be like brain. I think the defensive capabilities probably of OG Anunoby.
Okay.
So the dry wit doesn't hurt.
Yeah, that's a nice little thing to have in there as well.
Mm-hmm. I think I want specifically the other qualities are wonderful, but specifically the handle of Scottie Barnes, because it's still a marvel to me to watch somebody be able to dribble the basketball like 10 feet away from their body.
Sure.
And mostly keep control of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one is tough. I think I would like the explosive motor of Chris Boucher.
Okay. So it's a Boucher trying really hard while dribbling very. I don't know what's the word for how Scottie Barnes dribbles. Like,
I mean, I think it's beautiful, but it
is
doesn't look.
beautiful.
It's like
Yeah.
it's an anomaly.
Yeah, tall guy dribbles, extreme motor, and defensive chops on the level of OG Anunoby. Not a bad combination there, Katie. I too am going to have Scottie Barnes as part of my triforce of Raptors goodness, or whatever we're calling it here. I think I'm going to go Scottie Barnes as passing, just because it's really fun to watch, and I would like to have no-look passes be part of whoever is this sort of amalgamation player we're coming up with. I think I'm going to go Fred VanVleet's pull-up three-point shooting, and I know everyone's going to go, Fred, he's terrible. No, he's good. Look at the numbers. He's actually back to being Fred VanVleet. He's very good at basketball, and if Scottie Barnes, with that passing, also had himself a pull-up three, boy, oh boy, we're really talking. And then I think I'm going to go with the sort of all-encompassing, switchable rim protection defense of Precious Achiuwa as opposed to OG Anunoby. Just to mix it up, I think both of those guys have, of course, all sorts of merit on the defensive side of the ball. But I think a Scottie Barnes-sized player who shoots like Fred VanVleet and defends like Precious Achiuwa and passes like Scottie Barnes is maybe the best player in the entire NBA, which I guess is what you're trying to do when you put all this stuff together. Can we come up with a name for these players? No, that's going to be too hard.
I don't want to. No. I don't want to do that.
No. Speaking of Scottie Barnes, let's get to this question. An interesting one from Cameron Hilton, who asks, in 5 years, what position is Scottie Barnes playing the most? This is a really good one. Of course, of late, he's been playing mostly center as, sort of the middle of the floor guy on the offense, the kind of by default rim protector, even though maybe that's not his best spot. I think it's his best spot right now. Long term, maybe not. Obviously he brands himself as a point guard. I'm sure he's been penciled in as the starting small forward more often than not on the actual sort of lineup card, or power forward, whatever you want to say. Scottie Barnes, a man of many positions. Katie, what do you think is the position he'll be playing the most in 5 years' time?
Well, he's not. This is tough because he's not in a vacuum. So
Yeah.
I think someone like Scottie Barnes, and also just this type of player that we're going to see more of going forward in the NBA. It's so contingent on what the team around him is doing. And with Scottie, I'm like, is he in Toronto? What does that team look like? Is he somewhere else? What are they going to want and need from him? I would say intuitively, I feel like I would say point guard. I think his skill set will have progressed to that level where he's kind of like wide panning it. And I would think, 1 second.
No, it's okay. We love the dog. It's always good.
I was going to say center, but then I was like, in 5 years, he's not going to be a geriatric person. Because I was like, I could see him playing more center down, like farther down the road.
Yeah.
Not to suggest that like centers are just static and stand there, because they certainly aren't anymore. But I could see maybe him growing into that more as like well into the future. But I would say probably point guard in 5 years. That's where my money's at.
I think I'm with you. I think the playmaking is like very obvious. I think the fact that he can kind of get to his spots with the ball in his hands, that seems like a pretty useful thing to have in a point guard. I know right now he's kind of better making those quick decisions from the middle of the floor when there's kind of duress to make those decisions, as opposed to surveying, having to sort of probe and then make his decision after making his move. I think that sort of quick fire processing is going to come, because look at the passes the dude throws. He sees things that other people don't. And with a proper environment, with proper spacing around him, I think he could be really deadly in that sort of lead guard, point guardy sort of thing. And look, the Magic Johnson stuff is very real. Not that he's going to be Magic Johnson, because that's one of the 10 best players of all time, but the sort of the vibe of, hey, this guy is 6'8", 6'9", but can play like a point guard. This seems like a thing to maximize and sort of have that size of the position. I kind of feel like that's where things are headed here for the Raptors, who, as much as Vision 6'9" might be, a thing of the past as sort of an ethos, I still think the general idea of having 6'9" guys handle the ball, if they can do it, is a pretty good one in a league where tall guys tend to perform better than shorts. That said, you mentioned the idea of him playing center. There is absolutely a window of Scottie Barnes' career when he's between like 35 and 39 where he will be full on Boris Diaw, like Spurs era Boris Diaw. And I am very excited for that, Katie. Let me tell you. We're going to continue on, get to a few more questions, some fun ones, some trade-related ones, everything in between. Before we do that, however, very excited today to tell you about our dear friends over at FanDuel, a very exciting new sponsor here with Locked On. They are the #1 sportsbook in America, and if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better because they have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers can join today and get started with a $150 bonus in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has all your favorite bets, from the money line to the point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. For example, if you're like me and you like to get into little sports betting when you're at a game in itself, in the flesh, to enhance the live experience, get a same-game parlay going. It's a really fun time. My cousin did this exact thing when we went to the Raptors game a couple weeks ago against the Hornets, and he won. Very exciting. A Scottie Barnes steal in the final minute of the game got him his same-game parlay, and he was very thrilled about that. All in the app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So football, basketball, hockey fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL and of Locked On. All right, let's continue on here with your first listen of the day. Katie Heindl along. By the way, before we continue any further here, reminder, February the 7th at the Rivoli, Queen Street West. I think 6 p.m. is when things get rolling. It's the Raptors Republic pre-trade deadline podcast extravaganza of the century. And the first panel is going to be a Locked On Raptors takeover. Katie Heindl will be there. Other familiar faces from this podcast will be there. That's all I can say right now. It's going to be a ton of fun. Get your tickets right now. Go to raptorsrepublic.com. We will see you there on February the 7th. All right, Katie. Let's carry on here. Carry forward. What am I saying? This one comes from a beloved regular question asker, Epic Moppus, the preeminent Toronto Raptors fan from Tennessee. Apologies to non-Epic Moppus fans from Tennessee, who I've just denigrated. The question is, which Raptor would give the best halftime performance, balancing bowls on their head while on a unicycle, dramatic painting to club music, doing tricks with a very cute dog, those kinds of things. Katie, this is a very good one. Who's nailing the halftime performance for the Toronto Raptors?
I think that would be pretty good. In terms of like keeping a composure, like doing something, yeah, like painting is a good one. But like more like fine art, live painting.
Sure.
Yeah, I could see him really like digging in, being good at that. I think Scottie, I'd like to see do something musical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a drum line situation, or
no, you know what I'm thinking is one. I don't know if I'm actually even going to be able to explain this properly.
Even better.
When there's like a giant contraption that someone has made, and like either water's running through it or like a ping pong ball is running through it. Something is going through it, and then it like makes sounds as the thing progresses.
Sure.
And you kind of have to be in, like, you maybe at some point have to like press something or pull something or move something. Something like that. So it's like invention. And then also,
I think you just described an instrument from The Grinch, like when they're playing around with their toys before Christmas Eve. Yeah.
But I've seen this kind of thing happen. So maybe just in my dreams, but I've seen it. I can picture it, not just The Grinch. Something like that, because I feel like if there was a moment when things went awry, just seeing Scottie be like stressed out in the moment, you know, trying to figure it out with a smile on his face would be a lot of fun. Animals, I don't know. Animals is tougher. I can't picture.
Are there any notable dog guys on the Raptors right now? I know Norm Powell had.
But yeah, I think this would have been a great thing for Norm to get Apollo and Odin out there.
Yeah.
Just doing it like little twirls. But now I don't know.
Would he race the dogs against one another, or would they do some sort of teamwork event?
Oh, like a baby race where the dog was like the baby's in a chariot and the dogs are like dogs are hooked up to the baby chariot to pull
Well, I
it.
think we just found our answer. They have to trade for Norm Powell now to get this going. Game ops. Put your input into the front office, please.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of Scottie Barnes playing a great big electric Who Cardio Schlucks. That sounds fun. For me, Katie, I always like the ones where like feats of strength are on display in a halftime show, just people lifting other people. And I kind of think you could get to some sort of circus level entertainment with OG Anunoby just lifting various people from the crowd, and just like seeing, just you bring in 10 people and then he just lifts them, and if he can't lift you, you win something. Maybe that's it. Like anything where OG is just pulling off hilarious feats of strength, I think would be fun. Maybe it's just like the undressed players for the Raptors. You get like Joe Wieskamp and Kem Birch coming out to get bench pressed by OG. You could even do like some sort of routine where you're hanging from the rafters and like OG's just like holding Gary Trent Jr. aloft, like Rose from Titanic in the air, suspended. Maybe that's it. I'm really hung up on this feats of strength thing by OG. I mean, I'm also just pretty party to anything involving trampoline dunks, and like maybe you get a Precious Achua doing a trampoline dunk routine. And
I don't know. That feels too risky.
Definitely, but you know, what's the risk? Well, what's the point of having a halftime show if there's not a little risk to it? Am I right? Like people love Red Panda. There's a lot of risk there.
They're pros. Sort of, you know what I mean?
Level.
You don't just pop anybody on a trampoline and hope for the best.
I feel like in an alternate timeline, Precious Achua is the greatest slam ball player of all time. But, you know, your point on safety does stand. Let's continue and get this question in here from Jeff Xylon from Twitter asking, do either of you have a favorite player's free throw style, or am I the only weirdo who thinks about this? I noticed Kyrie Irving's really unique way of doing them last time they played the Raptors, and I've been obsessed with watching every player's free throw style since. Gotta say, excellent question. This was the first question that came in after I put out the prompt for some fun, weird, creative questions, and boy did Jeff hit the spot with this one. I don't know if the Raptors currently have like a cool, interesting free throw routine. I think the one that stands out from recent Raptors history for me is DeMar DeRozan with the ghost high fives.
Yeah.
But do you have someone that comes to mind? It could just be, you know, it doesn't have to be a Raptor either. It could be someone who is out there in the ether whose free throw stylings you like.
I liked watching Kyle's free throws. He was like very
direct,
intent. Yeah. Mark was a good one.
Mark's got that like slow load, doesn't he? Very, very slow release.
I like it because
it's
like low pay. You're expecting something, you know, it's Marc Gasol. Like you're expecting something a bit more like with some prowess, and it's just like a just like an easy flick. I mean, I guess this is pretty obvious, but I kind of love Giannis doubling down on the counting. Not doubling down. No, doubling down. In that he's like dug into it even more and is like, well,
it's like, I dare you to call me for a delay of game here.
Yeah. I think it's very tacky for everybody to count down the time now. Like
you're one of these fan cops, huh, Katie? Oh, don't have fun. Don't count down the guy who takes 45 seconds to take free throws.
It's just a bit gauche. It's like a bit tacky. You know, there's better things you can expend your energy on.
You say this, but I don't think I've ever been in a building that was louder or more electric than when Giannis in the conference finals against the Raptors missed like 5 free throws in the fourth quarter of one of those games.
He wasn't but people weren't counting then.
No, but I think there was still sort of a...
That's probably what made him start to take so long. I think actually it was. Wasn't there a story that was like after that he went...
The Raptors broke me? Yeah.
Yeah, he worked with someone in terms of like specifically coaching that. And they were like, you can take as long as you want. You can't, but you know, it's like you can.
Yeah. I don't side with the Nets franchise much, but I do think it was cool that they had the countdown and the fans were getting involved. And then I think it's lame. The NBA was like, stop it. It's mean. I think that's...
it was cool the first few times.
Spirited.
That's what I'm saying. But now it's like, you know, like, all right. We
hat
know.
On the hat stuff.
We all know. Yeah, we all know.
I get what you're saying. I also think future Toronto Raptor... Future Toronto Raptor Victor Wembanyama. Have you seen clips of his free throw stylings? I've seen him on YouTube a little bit. He doesn't dribble it. He just catches it, lines up, and shoots. And I think that's badass. I think to not, like, just thinking about doing that myself, someone who's not a very good free throw shooter, but, like, I need the 2 or 3 dribbles to kind of get into the flow, move my muscles a little bit, make sure I don't cramp up. For him to just catch it and just stone cold pour it in, I think that is pretty cool, and it's going to be fun when he's doing it for your Toronto Raptors, of course. The thing that's definitely going to happen if the Raptors just play their cards right, because the lottery never disappoints you. We're going to continue on here, Katie. Get into a couple more questions, a couple more fun ones, and some OG Anunoby related stuff, because people really all over the OG rumors and trade scuttlebutt these days. We'll get to that in just one sec, but before we do that, a reminder, Locked On Leafs is your daily Toronto Maple Leafs podcast, hosted by Mike DiStefano and Dave Morisuti. They're doing a great job covering a very good Leafs team that, if not for the Boston Bruins being unbelievable, would be right at the top of the NHL. Unfortunately, Boston sports gets all the good things. It's a real nightmare. But either way, not a nightmare is Locked On Leafs. Go check them out every day in your favorite podcast apps and on YouTube. All right, Katie. Few more questions here. Let's dive into this one here from Mike Christie asking, do you think Vision 6'9"? I didn't put the ticker version of this on. Give me one sec. I have to fix this. Whatever. I'll bring the question down after. The production value remains sketchy at best here on the show. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. Mike Christie asks, do you think Vision 6'9" is over by the end of the season? Has Nick and the front office learned enough from this experiment? A good question, an important question at the moment. Obviously something I'm sure they're mulling over internally going into the deadline. I have, kind of gone on a rant about how I think the term Vision 6'9" has lost all meaning of late, but I am curious what you think, Katie, as to the future of Vision 6'9" as a philosophy for this Toronto Raptors team build.
Well, what's the definitive end for people? Like for me, it would probably
they trade all of the 6'9" guys and only play 6'5" guys.
Yeah. No, I think it's like, for me, it's like you get a center, you get a quote traditional center, right? Because then you're even if though like that in itself is kind of funny because it's like they may also just be around that height.
Yeah, like Precious Achua might just be that guy.
Yes,
6'9".
You get like a quote true center. That to me would probably signal that it's over because you're anchoring one of your positions, even if your other 4 are still pretty fast and loose. I guess like where I'm at with Vision 6'9" is like how much was real and like definitive to begin with, how much was kind of a loose term that was fun to apply to what they were trying to do.
I really regret coining the phrase, Katie. I'm 99% sure I'm the one who coined it, and I feel badly for it because.
Did you? But that's the
I'm
thing.
Pretty sure
like,
I did.
What's the origin story? I don't know. They obviously were trying.
My dumb brain. Don't listen to anything I say.
But I don't think. I think what they were trying wasn't even that directed.
Yeah.
Right. It was this like 2-year loose term, more or less, to kind of lick their wounds after Tampa and try and put something together. Give themselves some like breathing room and recovery time. I feel like the front office is quite stubborn. I don't mean they're not seeing the obvious problems, but I also feel like they're quite stubborn. So I don't think they're going to, as you said, and I'm sure some people want, trade away the key players that, make Vision 6'9", whether you invented it, whether they invented it.
I did, but it's fine.
A real thing. But also basketball teams change all the time. And I think in Toronto, we kind of have forgotten a little bit about what it like. We go through more long cycles, right, of development than like quick turnovers. So
yeah,
I mean, I guess the answer to me is it's harder to answer because I'm like, when did it start? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I think
post-title, I guess, is that your marker?
I would say like when they drafted Scottie Barnes and were like, well, we're going to add another 6'9" guy to the bunch.
Some people would say sooner,
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really have a center in Tampa. That is a good point. They tried with Aaron Baines, but obviously didn't work out the way they wanted it to. I think, I don't think the sort of core tenet idea of Vision 6'9" is going anywhere as far as like a team building philosophy, both with the Raptors and in the NBA at large. I think the idea of having tall players with guard-like skills is the ideal form of basketball in theory. If you can have all the players do all the things that you need the players on the floor to do geometrically in terms of role, and they're all tall, I think that is probably still going to be a thing that teams strive for. Just being 6'8" is more beneficial than being 6'2" in the NBA. It's just the reality. We've seen this play out over and over and over again. I do think this year, the last couple of years, have illuminated that you can't just play with only 6'9" guys. You have to have some sort of versatility in the types of players you can play. You have to have guard skills. And as it turns out, there aren't that many players at 6'9" who have guard skills. And so until there are a bounty of players at that size who play like guards, there's still going to be room for the Fred VanVleets and Gary Trent Jr.'s of the world, not to mention the center element too. So like, I don't think the idea behind it is flawed in any way. I think it's actually a pretty sound vision. I just think the personnel is really hard to attain. And in the absence of being able to build a team out of 15 players who can play center and have guard skills and do all the different things you need on the floor, you got to have different players who do those things traditionally. So if you've learned anything, I think it's just, it can be part of the toolkit. Like Fred VanVleet has said, it can be part of the toolkit, but it can't be the only thing you do, just because there's a scarcity in the players who have those skills that you need at 6'9" to really fully execute it. Let's continue on, Katie. A couple of questions here regarding OG Anunoby. There was a question about sort of the Bob McCown rumor that OG wants out. I don't know how much to put into a Bob McCown rumor, honestly. You know, I'm sure he knows stuff. I'm sure people tell him stuff. People have different sources of different quality, whatever. But beyond that, you have a question here from Shane, which is OG for Myles Turner and the Pacers first in 2023. Who says no? Katie, I know you love fake trades. It's your favorite thing. I am curious, you know, thoughts on just the concept of trading Anunoby. I know this has been a thing that's popped up sort of in the discourse over the last week or so. We talked about it last week with Miguel Rivas, who dropped the bomb on the show saying he thinks they should trade OG. I can very much see the argument for it if you're thinking moving OG is a way to sort of reassemble the roster around Scottie Barnes and Pascal Siakam. You hope that you build with those two's those two primes overlapping at some point in the next few years here. And maybe an OG trade is the way to sort of restock the cupboards, as it were, in a way that, you know, kind of more profoundly changes your trajectory going forward than just trading Fred VanVleet or Gary Trent Jr. Thoughts on OG? Thoughts on Myles Turner? Where are you at with all this, Katie? It's all very grim. I don't like talking about this stuff, and I'm ready for the deadline to be over.
I feel so sad just like subjecting Myles Turner to another hypothetical trade. Like there isn't anyone who's been in more of them in the past like 4 years.
Maybe John Collins. It's quite a title to contend for, but yeah,
it's
Turner's
still Myles, I think.
Yeah, it feels like he's been on the trade block for 5 seasons, and that's like more than half of his career.
And even if he wants out, it's kind of cruel because now, if he did want out in the past, because now the Pacers are good, and fun. So
playing with Tyrese Halliburton seems like a blast. I wouldn't want to end that. I don't think.
This is tough. I mean, yeah, sure. Theoretically, this is a good trade, right? But like, do I think they will do it? No. For like those two, I don't know that Indiana is giving up. But this sucks. I hate this hypothetical because I'm like, oh yeah, OG would be a good fit. He would be a good fit in Indiana.
He'd be a really good fit on that Indiana team for sure.
Would.
Yeah,
he would. It's like I don't envy the position that they're in. I understand the allure of OG Anunoby to any NBA team and the return then the Raptors would be looking at. It just seems really tough to me that you're forfeiting his first good full season that he's had in his career and being like, well, you know, we knew all along, so see ya. So I suppose I say no.
I mean, I guess if you're
very sentimental grounds.
For sure. I think it's totally fair to be sentimental about OG Anunoby as well. He's a really fun player, really cool guy. He's fun to have on your basketball team and a pretty damn useful player to have on your basketball team. It's why half the league wants him. You know, I think if the Pacers are giving you their first round pick this year, you sign up for that because the Pacers are currently free falling without Tyrese Halliburton and will probably not end up as high as it looked like they might be in the standings a little earlier. So if you can get your own lottery pick plus the Pacers potentially lottery pick, yeah, you do that. The Myles Turner sort of uncertainty baked into it all. He's going to be a free agent. You got to keep him around. Maybe the Raptors, fancy their ability to do so. And he certainly would be an excellent fit next to Scottie Barnes and Pascal Siakam if you're trying to maximize that next window. Kind of maybe the ideal perfect fit of anybody in the NBA, really. But it's tough. There's the worry that you trade OG and are sort of missing that type of player for the rest of time and sort of thinking back like it's the Babe Ruth trade for the Red Sox. Like, damn, how the hell did we let that happen? Obviously, he's not Babe Ruth, but he's far more cut than Babe Ruth ever was. But, there's also the world in which 18 months from now, you look back and wonder, damn, that was kind of our chance to strike while the iron was hot and get the most we could have for him. This is all very sad. It makes me bummed out. Let's go to another question then about trades, Katie. This one is from Cameron Hilton, once again asking, one realistically acquirable player added to the Raptors who could unlock the half court. Buddy Hield, Seth Curry. Let me tell you, Katie, I have an idea here. And this was talked about on the Pound the Rock podcast with our pals Joe Wolfond and Joseph Cacharo yesterday. I've been talking about this trade with Joe Wolfond in our DMs for like 2 weeks. Also OG involved. What say you to a little OG Anunoby for Tyrese Maxey swap, Katie? The Sixers get themselves OG Anunoby, who can fix a lot of their defensive issues. They get to roll out a starting five of Harden, Melton, OG, Harris, and Embiid. Coming back the other way would be PJ Tucker and Daniel House, the salary match, which, we get PJ Tucker back in town. That'd be cool. And then Tyrese Maxey, of course, is the big sort of the headliner. And boy, oh boy, would Tyrese Maxey be a hilariously good fit next to Siakam and Scottie Barnes. No? What say you to that potential swap, which I think if the Sixers are like, we got to go win the title this year, that might be the move for them. It's obviously a big one. They probably have all the same sentimentality tied up in Maxey that the Raptors do in OG, so it probably doesn't happen. But I think that one is like maybe the most intriguing potential fake OG trade out there. And I'm sad that I waited till after the Pound the Rock guys got to it first on their show. But we've been talking about it for weeks, Joe and I. And I think this is potentially a winner, Katie, for both sides.
I don't know. They're not giving up Maxey, man. Like that's not happening. Even I'm sure as like enticing as OG is to their roster and like what a good fit he would be now and in the season and like such a difference maker. He still doesn't have a lot of the things that Maxey does.
But Maxey doesn't have a lot of the things OG does.
Well, exactly.
But any idea how to play defense.
Yeah, but like you're trading a lot of like Maxey is kind of a offensive like combustion engine, which I would say Embiid and Harden don't have.
Yeah.
Right. Like, there are other like offensive capabilities. They really don't have that. And the team doesn't really have that. So that I think would be a big loss to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's appealing. I really love watching Tyrese Maxey play basketball. I would love to have PJ Tucker back on the team, though that would suck for him and all his convertibles.
Yeah. But PJ and Thad hanging out, being old, baby, that's the stuff right there.
I mean, I also like these other, like I love Seth Curry, but again, I feel like Seth Curry is like way too valuable to give up. But like Seth Curry is just like always of the Curry brothers, just getting the short end of the stick when he's like been the most competent player, I think, on any of the teams he's been on in the past like 5 seasons. And I'm a long time Buddy Hield fan. So,
yeah, Buddy.
These are wonderful options. But like, I don't know. I don't actually even know, in like for practicality's sake, I don't even know what those two necessarily give or fix for the Raptors. I think there's now a deeper problem in Toronto than just like you're swapping one guy for another.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly need ball handling. I don't really know if Curry or Hield's given that to you, so I don't know if that's like opening up the offense. They have a similar guy to those guys in Gary Trent Jr. and the offense still stinks. So I think it would have to be sort of, like you said, a combustion engine, like a Tyrese Maxey, that type of player coming in to just sort of change the shape of the floor, change the way defenses have to bend, and thus open up a whole lot of stuff for Scottie and Pascal and the rest. You might be looking at a pretty grim defensive backcourt with a Maxey Fred situation, but
Right.
I mean, I don't know. That I think is like such a fascinating trade. It also would tell us a lot, I think, about what the Sixers sort of think about this year, because I do think that's the move. If you think this is your year to win the title, that's like a move to increase your chances of winning the title right now. But maybe they view this Harden thing as a longer term marriage. Maybe they're worried about him leaving and they they do go all in, or they're worried about him leaving and want to keep Maxey around to fill in that void. These are not easy decisions for anybody, but I do think that is a fun one. And with that, we're going to leave it there instead of making Katie talk about trades anymore.
Thanks.
I know Katie hates it.
Yeah.
It's just the crummy reality of the situation the Raptors find themselves in. It's just kind of the way forward, I suppose, is shipping out dudes in exchange for other dudes. But either way, we're going to leave it there. Katie, thank you so much for hanging and for indulging. And thanks to the lovely listeners who sent in so many great questions this week. Katie, anything you would like to promote for the good people out there?
Like to promote you getting your storm chips, getting whatever you need to get together to hunker down in these next.
It snowed so much since we started podcasting. Oh my God. Anyway.
And just be safe and subscribe to Basketball Feelings.
Everyone, if you're not subscribed to Basketball Feelings, what the hell are you doing? Do it. It's great. I'm a paid subscriber. Couldn't be happier. Go check it out. You can find me over on Twitter at Woodley Sean. Follow, subscribe to, rate, and review the podcast for free wherever you get your shows. And of course, we are on YouTube. Please go support the video version of the show. Even if you're not going to watch the videos, again, all I ask is that you subscribe and then just leave the videos on in the background on mute and help juice the stats. That's totally fine and above board and makes me feel a whole lot better about myself. Thank you for doing that. And once again, February the 7th at the Rivoli, Queen Street West. Katie and I will be there along with a whole host of wonderful dignitaries from Raptors Internet for the Raptors Republic pre-trade deadline podcast event of the century. It's going to be a blast.
Selling, so
tickets are selling.
Yeah.
Go get them right now and get yourself in the door. With that, we will round it out there. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you Thursday breaking down Raptors Kings. It's late night Raptors week, baby. I think Jamar Hines will be along to do that tomorrow, so you have that to look forward to. Until then, thanks so much. Bye-bye.